Hello, class. Welcome to Module 2. This is the first video for talking about our textbook, Everything is Obvious. Now, I really like this textbook. I know that it probably feels a little bit weird to be reading this book in a class that's called Love, Sex, and Globalization, but that's not all this class is about. Part of what this class is for is to introduce you to the social sciences, and I think this book does a really good job. So for this first couple of weeks, this is one of the main readings we're going to be doing. We're not going to be reading from the book Intimacies yet until Module 4. But yeah, I really like this book. Everything is obvious. It ain't what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. And that's a comment from Mark Twain. The social sciences, anthropology, sociology, economics, for example, have a lot to offer students, but people often denigrate these sciences as being soft sciences. You hear people talk about hard sciences being very valuable, and then the soft sciences as not. Like, I will get into debates with people about my own research subject, people talking to me about love and marriage and things of this nature, and they will argue with me even though they don't have PhDs in anthropology and social science and haven't been studying the subject for their whole life. But if you were a rocket scientist and you had an opinion about rocket science, nobody would argue with you. They would say, oh, you're a rocket scientist, of course. Why would I don't have an opinion about those things, so why would I debate you? You know more than me. There's this sort of thing about the social sciences that people think that social sciences are obvious, that you can just somehow infer the answer to sociological questions and just know it intuitively, and that you don't have to study it or something like that. And I find that really interesting. It's true of a lot of social scientists. So I like this book because it talks about the ways that this is just not true, that social sciences require a lot of study and they can help us solve human problems. So the first, I'm going to be going over this pretty briefly because I know you're reading the textbook and you've seen some other materials from this author, so I'm going to go through it pretty briefly. But I'm going to start with this question. How many times, assume we have a very fine piece of paper, which is only 0.001 centimeters or 1 millimeter thick, a standard sheet of paper. Let's also assume that the size of the paper is so big, this massive paper is gigantic, that you can fold it over and over as many times as you want. So how many times would you have to fold a piece of paper for it to be thick enough to reach the moon? Think for a moment. So you have a sheet of paper. Of course, it's uniformly thick. It's very, very thin. Uniformly, it's the same thickness, which is thin, but it's massive in all directions. So you can fold it as many times as you want. And every time you fold it, you fold it, and you fold it. How many times for that stack of folds? How many times do you have to fold it to reach the moon? Take a second. Well, it might surprise you that the answer is only 45. Most people guess hundreds of times, if not thousands. Some people say millions of times, oftentimes when I teach this class. But it's really interesting. There are certain kinds of problems. There are certain kinds of things that humans try to solve with our brains that because of our evolution, because of the nature of our minds and the way they work, human beings are systematically bad at performing certain types of tasks. So the one that we just did, talking about the moon, for example, and how many times to fold a piece of paper, everybody is universally bad at it, and they're bad at it in a specific way, that's systematically. It's not like some people vastly guess over the number, and they say 1,000,000 times I have to fold the paper, and then the other half of people say, oh, once or twice. No, human beings are systematically bad at exponential growth questions. The moon question, compound interest, they don't understand how compound interest works, how a small amount of money invested can grow exponentially over time. Just, it doesn't make sense to our Homo sapien brain that we have for that to work. So you can guess the ways that human beings are going to be bad at certain kind of tasks, and that's really important to know. Most people don't understand this very well. Probability and estimating risk. So the danger of traveling by car versus airplane or by bicycle. Now, a lot of this lecture I'm going to be talking about cycling and transportation because obviously, if you've seen the other videos, you know I'm a big cyclist and a big transportation advocate, so it's something I know quite a bit about, but you can apply this to all sorts of human problems. So probability and estimating risk. Has anybody ever said a prayer or been scared when they went to fly on an airplane? Lots of people are afraid to fly, and you hit a bump in the airplane and you immediately think that the plane's going down and all these things. But uh, airplane travel is so much safer than car driving, and yet you never say a prayer before you get into the car. You never think, oh no, I hope this isn't the car drive that I get into where I'm going to die or get seriously injured. And yet that happens all the time. Something like 50,000 people die every single year in the United States due to car crashes, but hardly anybody dies in airplane crashes in the United States anymore. Cycling is the same thing. So many people, as soon as you get on a bicycle, your parents tell you to put on a helmet, protective armor, because they think that cycling is so unsafe. And yet, cycling is far more safe than riding in a car even. It's much, much safer. But we have all these rules and regulations, and people have this perception that bicycling is dangerous when in fact it's not. So I have these images on the left and showing you just how much more dangerous it is to be a driver than it is to be a bicyclist or flying versus what's the likelihood that you're going to get a head injury when you're cycling? Well, it's very, very low compared to driving. If you should wear a helmet ever or wear body armor, you should do it while you're in a car while you're driving, but not when you're cycling. So human beings are very bad at estimating probability and estimating risk. And again, not only are they bad at it, but they are systematically bad at it. Everybody does it in almost the same exact way. Now, people are also really, really bad at multitasking. So I want you to do this little experiment if you don't mind. Hopefully you're paying attention to the video. Normally I would do this in class, but do this little experiment. Set up a timer on your phone. I'll do it. Go to your timer function. Oh, did I say timer? I meant stopwatch. Go to your stopwatch function, and I want you to do this. I want you to recite the alphabet from A to J. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. And then immediately after that, I want you to count from 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to give you an example. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I did that in about 5 seconds. If I was really into it, I probably could have even done it faster if I wanted to. Now, doing the exact same thing, I'm not going to do it because it's embarrassingly bad for me, but do the exact same thing, but instead of going from A to J and then from 1 to 10, I want you to say A, 1, B, 2, and so on. So you're going to do the exact same thing, but from A, you're going to be counting back and forth between A's and letters and numbers, all the way up to 10. So take a minute and try that. What was your score? How much longer did it take you to do the multitasking? Well, the answer is, again, human beings are systematically bad at multitasking. And the other thing is we all think that we're good at it. We all think we're amazing multitaskers, listening to music, driving, playing with the dash radio, and doing all this stuff, talking on the phone while we drive, eating while we drive. We think we're fine at it. But we're really, really terrible at it, and you should try to not multitask because if you're like me, it took me like 45 seconds or something like that to do the multitasking, and that's because your brain is not good at switching from one task to another. It's very inefficient. It can do one task like recite the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and all the way, but then when you have to switch between tasks, A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, even then, I get caught up in what comes after 3. Your brain gets vastly, vastly less efficient, so don't multitask. So again, human beings are systematically bad at performing certain kinds of tasks because that's just how our brains work.